Well, hello and welcome to Vets Clinic Live on Wednesday the 27th of February, I think it is, with me, Joe Inglis.
And me, Adrian Caunter.
And Jack the dog, who's staring at one of our guests, actually, who's coming later on, is a cat called Sid, who's in the waiting room, and Jack is eyeballing Sid, I think, as is his wont, being the practice dog. Anyway, we've got a cracking show coming up for you, as always, loads to pack in. We've got our normal look at the news stories coming up. We've got a caption competition, which is a particularly good one, I think.
Yes, well, you would do, wouldn't you? Yeah.
We've got a couple of fantastic guests, including Donna from a charity called the LSPCA, which is an African charity based in Africa, out in Malawi, doing some fantastic work out there. So we're going to be chatting to Donna and seeing some video footage of the work that the charity does out there. We're going to be talking about heart disease.
Yep.
Aren't we?
In Heart Month this month. So
Heart Month, exactly. Heart Awareness Month, I think. And we've got a good question about a rat called Valentine, which ties in.
Amongst many
and
good questions.
Swatting up on your.
I haven't actually at all. No.
Talking of interesting cases, we've got a fantastic. The case of Sid the cat was one that you dealt with.
Yeah, I had a couple of interesting cases this week, but Sid was particularly interesting. Yeah.
Yeah, so it's going to be
no more spoilers, but
so it's worth watching that one. That's a cracking one. But first of all, tell us about the caption competition. Adrian.
Yeah. Okay. So as usual, we have a competition for you where you can win
a bag of Vet's Kitchen food.
Excellent.
For your pet.
And this week it features yours truly.
Yes.
You may or may not be aware that this week was our 6-month anniversary, so we went off on a little trip to the Cotswold Wildlife Park where we got to see behind the scenes and feed some of the animals. And there's a picture of you here interacting with the lemur. This was just before he let out a girly squeak, or just after.
I was calmness personified.
Yeah, absolutely, yeah.
But anyway, it was a bit of a shock because we were told not to touch the
animals. And on no account touch the lemur.
No one obviously told the lemurs not to touch the humans, so we did get rather attacked by them, which was great. But come up with your captions. We know we can rely on you to come up with some good ones on our Facebook page, and the winner will, by the end of the show, will get a bag of food.
Excellent.
What else have we got coming up? I've lost my bit in the thing. So news stories. We've only really found one news story this week. It seems to be
talking of birthdays.
Talking of birthdays?
Yeah.
Oh, old. Yes, I see your link. Yes. So it's been. There doesn't seem to be that much going on in the pet world, but there is one good story, which is all about this. Britain's oldest dog, who's a Jack Russell called Daisy, was rescued in 1993 when she was 2, so she's now thought to be 22 years old.
It's crazy, isn't it? And she doesn't look from the picture to be in bad nick either.
No, she looks amazing, doesn't she? I mean, you never quite know with a rescue dog exactly how old they are, but I guess if she's been rescued in 1993, she's got to be at least 20.
She's got to be at least 20.
What's the oldest pet you've seen?
I don't think I've seen a dog that old before, but I've seen cats that old and above. Yeah.
I think I've seen a few dogs in their 20s, but they're few and far between, aren't they?
And
what would you say? She's put down the secret to her success. Probably shouldn't say this really, but it's never feeding dog food. So she
feeds it on Chinese and roasts.
Mr. Barsby Finch from Tewkesbury puts Daisy's longevity down to her long walks in the countryside and a refusal to eat dog food. Daisy has never had a tin of dog food in her life. She eats exactly what we eat. Her favourite meal is roast chicken and mashed potatoes, but she'll happily eat everything. So I'm not entirely sure I would agree with that. But any other tips for longevity?
Well, I mean, it's interesting. I was thinking about it earlier when I saw the news story. It's interesting because small dogs tend to live a lot longer. They tend to look, perhaps in this case, but slightly ropey towards the end, especially the little Yorkies and whatnot that are 18, and the big dogs don't. But it doesn't really apply across the mammal world. I don't really understand why that's the way. I mean, why do small dogs live longer when you take small mouse that only lives versus elephant, which lives a long time? It's a bit strange, isn't it? Because
generally the smaller animals have a faster metabolism and heart rate, don't they? And they live fast, die young. So it's strange that it's the other way around. I mean, I guess some of it may be that the bigger breeds are inherently unhealthy because they're kind of a stretch of what is natural. You know, a Great Dane is never going to survive in the wild because there's more strain on its joint and its heart.
Possibly. I mean, but a husky or something similar to a wolf, that's as natural possibly as you could get. That doesn't tend to last longer than a Yorkie. I wouldn't say a Yorkie, not that there's anything wrong with Yorkies, but was natural dog personified.
Because a Jack Russell, a small dog here, and I'm thinking on the hoof here, is basically a big dog bred to be small. So it's got all of the kind of assets and attributes of a bigger dog in terms of its genetics, but it's smaller, so it lasts longer.
Let's go with that.
Should we go with that? I think that's as good a theory as we're going to get. So talking of old age and you know, lasting for a long time and everything, let's talk about heart disease, because it is Heart Awareness Month this month, and we've been running some campaigns on this and putting out some of your tips and things out on our newsletters.
Yeah.
So, can you, in a brief couple of minutes, give us an overview of heart disease and how you diagnose it, treat it, and prevent it, please, Adrian? Take it away.
I mean, heart disease is a massive category. I mean, it's not just one condition. There are several conditions that you can get. I suppose the two biggest areas we group them into is what we call congenital heart disease and acquired heart disease. So congenital heart disease is something you're born with, and you tend to see problems in puppies and kittens. And then acquired is what you get later on in life. And depending on what kind of heart problem you have, depends on the symptoms that you might show. So most of the heart conditions, though, end in heart failure. And heart failure does have a very specific set of symptoms that we might see.
Coughing, exercise intolerance.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So they start to cough because you get a build-up of fluid on the lungs, but also because the heart increases in size and then presses on the cough receptors. That tends to be the main reason. In terms of not exercising so much and being lethargic, obviously if your heart's not working, you can't exercise. There are other things you might see. So the fluid might build up, for example, in the tummy. So you might get a swollen tummy, something like that. And the breathing rate of the animal tends to increase quite a lot too.
It is quite different, isn't it, to human heart disease? Because obviously in humans we tend to get atherosclerosis, which is the hardening of the arteries, cholesterol. That doesn't really happen in pets, does it? So it's quite different. And generally the acquired heart disease tends to be when dogs, sort of valve failure is one of the most common ones, isn't it? And you know, and you get issues with the muscle wall of the heart and so on, particularly in cats. So it's quite different to human heart disease and different risk factors.
Absolutely. I think mainly we're talking genetics and bad luck in pets, whereas you know, obesity and poor diet and things like that don't really associate like they do in humans with heart disease. So it's just kind of, it's bad luck mainly, but there are certain breeds that you would expect to be more likely to get these problems. I suppose the classic one is the Cavalier.
And in terms of sort of diagnosing it, I mean, I suppose you'll get older pets generally will see these symptoms of you know, coughing or exercise intolerance, whatever. And I suppose the front line is listening to the heart, hearing a heart murmur, but there's better ways of diagnosing it nowadays.
Heart murmur doesn't necessarily mean a problem, and I won't go too much of that because I know we touch on that a bit later on in one of the questions, but in order to diagnose heart failure, really the only way to do that is on an X-ray where you can see an increase in the size of the vessels. There's also a blood test now that also picks it up, which is what we were offering this month. So.
And just then to wrap up that on treatment, so you've got a dog or a cat with heart failure, there's quite a few treatments, but there's kind of basically four kind of, you've obviously got the diuretics.
Yeah, the diuretics is the mainstay of therapy to decrease the workload that there is in the heart, but there's also drugs that can increase the ability of the heart to contract and make it contract more effectively. You can also do things like play with the blood pressure, etc., which can help the animals out.
Yes, and because your classic ACE inhibitors and things.
That's how they work,
Excellent. Right, so I guess the message to come out of that is if anyone's got a pet that's got any concerns over those kind of symptoms, get your vet to check it out. This new blood test is a great way of doing that. So lovely. We're going to come back to this subject later on in the show because we've got a question, as you said, about heart disease later on. We still want to get your captions in. We've had a few come in through. Let's have a look at them. So we've got Emma has said, "Gear a piggyback." So it wasn't an optional piggyback. This it was. And I've lost the other one. So where are we? Hazel said, "Just act casual, they won't see me." Zoe said, "Hang on." What else have we got here? No rucksack. So where does he keep the food then? That's a good one. They were definitely after something. Actually, I think they were just really playing, weren't they? And Hannah said, "Giddy up, let's go." So keep those coming in. That's good. We'll announce the winner at the end of the show. We're also, by the way, talking winners, we're announcing the winner of our Crufts competition. So keep on watching to find out if you've won 2 tickets for Crufts as well. But we're going to say thank you very much to you, Adrian. We're going to see you again at the end of the show. But coming up next, we've got a very special guest who is Donna, who is the lead UK coordinator of a charity called the LSPCA, which works out in Malawi. And it's a charity I'm lucky enough to be the patron of. And I went out there a few years ago to do some work out in Malawi, neutering and various other things out there. So we're going to have a chat to Donna shortly. But first of all, we've got a short video showing some of the footage from my trip out there a couple of years ago. Right. So this is like no other puppy vaccination clinic I've ever run. It's absolutely manic. Right, well, that's the end of another operation. This one was a little puppy in spade, probably the smallest bitch spay I've ever done in my life. It's only about 3 months old. But I tell you, it's just absolutely hectic. As soon as you've done one, you're on to another one, and we've got 3 vets here just sort of cracking on, and there's a big queue of animals. Then down the end here, we've got all the animals that are waking up from their surgery. You know, it's not perfect conditions for them by any means, but you know, it seems to be going all right so far. I don't know how many we've done, lost count, but it seems to be just as many to keep on doing. Well, that was a little bit of action from out in Malawi, and I'm very pleased to say that we're joined by Donna O'Connell, who is described as the coordinator for the LSPCA in the UK. Is that a fair description?
Well, I'm the programme manager for Africa for the RSPCA, and we support the LSPCA in Malawi, so yes.
Yes, I mean, that's, I suppose, a brief summary of what the LSPCA is, and I guess the name gives it away that it's related to the RSPCA. So I suppose a lot of people don't know that the RSPCA does stuff overseas as well, because it's a UK charity, isn't it? But how does that work?
Yes, it's a fairly small international department, but we work in Southern Africa. So my focus is in Malawi, Zimbabwe and Zambia, and we also have programmes in East Asia and Europe too. So I think you're right, it's often not well known, but yeah, we work hard in other countries too.
And the LSPCA, where did that come from? Because I've been involved for a few years, but how did it actually sort of start in the first place?
Well, it's a very interesting case with Malawi actually, because unusually for the region there was no animal welfare organisation there at all.
So the whole country, nothing at all?
None at all, none at all. So in 2008 we were approached by some colleagues in Malawi and asked if we would like to support the starting of a whole new charity. So we did, and it's been an incredible success, and obviously we were delighted that in 2009 you became the patron of the charity. So.
Well, I mean, it was a great honour to be asked, really, and then you know, I obviously went out there in 2009, and it was, you know, it was an amazing experience going out there, I must say, because I was used to working in this country and, you know, in a lovely place like we've got here, and suddenly, I mean, as you can see from some of this footage, I mean, obviously you know, but just the conditions there that are so basic. But after I came back from that week, I felt I'd achieved more for animal welfare in that week than perhaps I would do in a month in the UK. But the focus of the work is quite widespread, isn't it? It's not just neutering animals.
No, the LSPCA's remit is basically to promote animal welfare across the country. So their main focuses are on providing veterinary services and delivering animal welfare education. So it's probably quite a surprise to most people to find out that there's just a handful of vets in Malawi. There are probably more private vets working in your clinic than there are private vets in the whole of Malawi.
It's just amazing, isn't it? To think, you know, if you've got a dog in Malawi, there are just no vets. It's not a question of just not being able to afford it or anything. There's no option, is there?
No, it's very difficult. So that's also something that we're working really hard to improve. So LSPCA run mobile clinics in the communities to provide really essential treatments to dogs and cats for animals that would never otherwise see a vet. So,
and when we were there, I remember doing an amputation of a leg on a puppy, and I guess without the LSPCA that would have just been left to die, wouldn't it?
Exactly, and we made sure you got really stuck in very quickly. You were operating under a tent like we saw with... I mean,
I did feel that, as I said, I was doing more real gritty, frontline, effective veterinary work in that week than I do, you know, in a long time in this country. And it's not all about companion animals. I suppose actually the word companion animals, it doesn't really work out there because they're all working animals. Even the dogs are guard dogs, really, aren't they?
Yes, people don't perhaps think of animals in quite the same way as we have the luxury of thinking about our pets here. So as you say, dogs often don't sleep inside the house, and they're used much more as protectors of the family and of the property.
But there's a lot of farm animals, aren't there? Sort of chickens, particularly, and pigs. I remember we saw like pigs just in people's houses, pretty much, and a lot of the work the LSPCA does is focused about not just animal welfare, isn't it, but it's people's welfare and the link between the two, because they're so linked in Africa, much more in a way than they are here. So, rabies vaccinations, Newcastle disease vaccinations, and it makes a real difference, doesn't it, to people's lives as well as their animals.
Exactly. LSPCA is very much concerned about ensuring that animal welfare is part of improving the livelihoods of the communities as well. So in a country where perhaps a family has 10 chickens, those chickens are really essential for their livelihoods. So we run really important programs where the chickens are vaccinated against a particularly fatal disease that can go through a whole village and wipe all the chickens out. So just by providing a very simple vaccination that goes into the chicken's eye, and is really very cost effective, you can really support the whole community as well as ensuring that the animal health and welfare is improved. So it's very important in those situations.
And the charity's come on an awful long way in the last few years, hasn't it? And it's all been driven by the main guy you've got out there, Richard, who's a fantastic vet, isn't it? And a real sort of inspirational leader. And I think we've got some photos of Richard in action. And the first one is, I think this is Richard with the first ever X-ray that was taken of an animal in the whole of Malawi, and that was last year or something, wasn't it?
Yes, you can imagine that was quite a momentous day. We actually ran a project last year called Clinic in a Box, which was to send all the equipment that we needed to set up a new clinic in Malawi, so the medicines, the equipment, office equipment, computers. And obviously you were part of helping us to promote that. So the Clinic in a Box ended up with a 20-foot container that was sent from the UK through South Africa, Mozambique, finally arriving in Malawi. And that had an X-ray machine as one of the sort of really important pieces of equipment.
He looks happy to have received
it.
So
it was amazing. Yeah. I mean, to think that was the first X-ray of an animal in the whole country, and now is doing so much good for so many animals.
And what's the future hold for the LSP? Where do you take it from here? Because it's made such big strides in just 5 years. And what's going to happen next?
Well, the programs will continue to expand. We're very fortunate now that we have the clinic as a base, and that's providing a source of income as well as providing a really essential service. So that's enabling us to expand our programs to other communities that really need our help. Obviously, we've been focused in Lilongwe up until now, but we'd really like to spread out further in Malawi if that was possible. We'd go to all the schools in Lilongwe to provide animal welfare education.
Focus,
yes, very much so. We've got 2 education officers there.
There's just, until the LSP with PCA was there was just no education of animal welfare and how to look after animals. And I remember when I was there, we went to a school, and just you just feel it's such effective work. Just spending half a day with the school is achieving so much, isn't it?
Absolutely. There are 2 really wonderful education officers working with LSPCA, and they're visiting schools 3 times a week, and they've recently set up animal clubs, animal kindness clubs. So the teachers are participating in workshops so they can then teach all of the children in the classrooms themselves. When you're talking about classes the size of maybe 100 children, you can reach a lot of children in one lesson, which is wonderful. Well,
it's fantastic stuff, and it's really honoured to be a patron. And as a business here, Vets Clinic, we are really keen to support the work of the LSPCA, and we've been discussing just before we came on air about what we can do, and we're going to look at ways that we can raise money through the clinic, offering our clients a chance to donate money and putting some of our proceeds to the LSPCA, which will be great. And also, with whether we can donate some equipment and drugs and things. So you'll be hearing a lot more about our involvement with the LSPCA going forward. But in the short term, if anyone out there is inspired by what you've heard and you would like to make a contribution, we've got a link here for the LSPCA's Just Giving page. And every penny that gets donated to that will be very, very effective. It'll go straight to the LSPCA, Richard out there in Malawi. So I'd urge you, if you've got a spare £1 or 2, to send it through to them, because it really is money very well spent. So thank you so much,
thank
Donna.
You.
It's been really
Lovely
nice to see you again and have you on our show. And I'm sure we'll see you again and update people on the progress of the LSPCA and our relationship and everything.
Thank you. Thanks for all your help.
That's a pleasure. So coming up from the wilds of vetting out in Africa, we've got quite a wild case that we've had here in the clinic in Swindon. This involved a cat called Sid and a rather mysterious ailment he had, and our head vet Adrian was tackling it. So before we meet Sid and his owner Clive, here's a short video explaining exactly what happened.
Got some really interesting and firm swellings here underneath the skin, and this is what we're going to go in and investigate and hopefully put right. In theatre, scrubbed up and ready to go, so I just need to put my gown and gloves on and then we can make a start. Sid's surgeries are all finished. It didn't go quite as we'd expected. So what we were hoping was that when we cut down into his midline there, the hernia area, what had happened with the hernia is a little hole in the muscle, and we were hoping that maybe some of of his guts, etc., had moved through that little hole and got trapped kind of on the outside world between the muscle and the skin, and that's what was making him feel quite unwell. But actually, when we got down inside, what we found was this. So this here is the lump that we've just taken out of him. Actually, it's lost quite a bit of fluid on the way out as well. It was actually considerably larger than that. And what I think has happened is this is actually a portion of here, his muscle wall. You can see that kind of pink layer there. And this was his hernia. His hernia has triggered some kind of growth, some kind of cystic growth that's slowly taken over all of his stomach. And actually, when I opened up Sid, I was really worried that we were dealing with a cancer that affected all of his organs, but once I managed to reflect this out, it was clear that everything underneath was completely normal. So this has all come out quite nicely. The only thing he's really lost is that portion of the muscle wall. Everything else inside of him, all his intestines, or his stomach, his kidneys, his bladder, is all completely normal. So hopefully, with that out, he'll go on to make a full recovery. Because I don't know exactly what it is, I suppose there's a chance it could come back again, but I have seen one case like this before in a dog, and actually once we removed it, that was it, no further problems. So I'm hoping the same will be true for Sid.
Well, what an amazing case that was, and I'm delighted to say we have got Sid the cat here looking incredibly well, and Sid's owner Clive, so welcome to the show.
Hello.
Clive, thanks for coming on, and he's looking amazing, isn't he?
He's doing fantastic, to be honest.
And it's just been, what, sort of 4 or 5 days or so since his operation? I mean, we can see his scar there. I mean, it's looking fantastic, isn't it? But, I was there when Adrian did this, and, I think we all thought when he opened him up, that was it. He'd got some really unpleasant kind of cancerous growth or something, and that, we were preparing to put him to sleep on the table, and it was only really then when Adrian started exploring things in more detail, he thought, actually, this is something that might be removable. I mean, from your point of view, how did this first start? When did you notice something was wrong?
When he was a kitten, he had a very small, it's about the size of a golf ball, or a little bit smaller. And we were under the understanding that he had a hernia and that he was going to have it removed when he was 1 year old.
Right.
Which, funny enough, is today.
Right.
And we were going to get him neutered at the same time. But on Sunday, this Sunday just gone, he started to go downhill, and then on Monday he wasn't.
Was the swelling quite big? Because obviously by the time we removed it, it was a pretty big swelling, wasn't it?
Monday.
Did it grow quite quickly then?
Very rapid.
From a golf ball to what we saw?
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
Wow.
just in 1 day.
Wow.
Yeah, and that's when we called to get him in.
And obviously, it didn't look very good at all. But I think what must have happened is that it filled up with fluid. I think there was probably the basic swelling, and then for some reason it reacted and filled up with fluid. But it is amazing how it grew so quickly and how well he's doing. So you must be over the moon to have him.
We all are, to be honest. My family, and to be honest, Mark and Anne, my brother and sister-in-law, because it was their cat first of all.
Right. Okay.
But because they had a child, the cat couldn't live there anymore because it just didn't work. So we took him on.
And he looks like a lovely cat. And what's he like in character?
He's amazing. Honestly, he'll wake you up in the morning. He talks to you all day long. Plays with me other cats. That's funny. His best mate is our black Labrador.
There's not many cats who would sit here comfortably on the sofa, while we're chatting away, without a care in the world, especially 4 days after major surgery. I never cease to be amazed by animals, how, they can undergo something like that. That you or I had been in hospital for a month or something after that. I bet the day he came out of surgery, probably eating his food and back to normal, wasn't it?
He was eating, a bit sleepy, but during the night, he livened right up. And then the next day, that was it. We were just trying to control him from jumping because we didn't want to split the skull or the stitching.
But it's looking fantastic. So, it's a very happy story. So thank you ever so much for bringing him in, Clive, and lovely to see you, Sid. And hopefully that's the end of his problem. So we're going to move on now to be rejoined by the architect of Sid's success, our head vet, Adrian. So we're going to be looking at our Q&As for this week. But before we do, we've had such a good response to our caption competition. So thank you all for that. There's so many good ones. There's some. There's a monkey on your back, says Wayne. Funny place to keep your nuts. Yeah, great. Let's make a quick escape. Who the hell are you? They promised me Steve Leonard. Yeah, I'm not sure about that one. But brilliant. Keep them coming. And we're going to just quickly play our sting so we can move Clive out and get Adrian in. And then we're going to be looking at your questions. So don't go away. We'll be back very shortly. Well, that was great, wasn't it? You must be really proud of that one.
Yeah, I love surgeries like that. It's absolutely, and outcomes like that was fantastic.
Well, you seem to have something about you of a kind of saving incurable cats, because we had the Pyometra not so long ago, enormous swollen cat. Everyone thought it was doomed. Saviour Adrian made it better, and the same has happened again.
I'd like that on a T-shirt. That'd be good.
There's some cracking things.
Yeah, they're all coming through currently.
What was the one you particularly liked? My dad.
There's one about yeah.
Oh, Dad, you came to get me. Yes, thanks. Thanks. I thought you'd like that. There's some really good one. Madagascar 4: Attack of the Vets. Vet's Monkey Kitchen has a nice ring to it, doesn't it? I see no lemur here. Yeah, very. Keep them going. They've still got a chance to win a bag of food, so and keep us amused as well. But let's rattle through some of these questions.
Go for it.
So we've got some of them which are behavioural, which we're going to attempt to have a go at
and see what we've learned. Yeah.
So Leah said, my male dog Shep, when an aggressive dog confronts him, he avoids it at all costs and starts circling away from the dog. I don't understand this behaviour with him. He's calm, social with calm dogs, especially if there are big, smaller dogs, he tries to hide behind me. He's 21 months old, mixed, adolescent and very grumpy. But I guess with any kind of dog which has issues with other dogs, one has to think about socialisation. You know, was he correctly socialised? And that could be the reason. Obviously, that's not going to help you fix it. And I think the best solution with most of these problems is very gradual exposure. You know, avoid the problem to begin with. So, you know, if he has got a problem like this, then just sort of try and take the issue away. So to walk away, get away from it, so you don't really compound the problem. And then very gradually use techniques like distraction to desensitize him. So when if there's an aggressive dog around, try and distract him with a treat or a toy, and just try and diffuse the situation. But
doesn't mention in there whether he's neutered or not either, that I saw.
Yeah, that's a good point actually.
And it might not change his behaviour, but the other dogs being aggressive towards him, that might decrease if he's neutered. So that's something to consider too.
Good point. Lovely. So I hope that helps Lee. Tina has got another behavioural problem for her 7-year-old border collie who's got separation anxiety, and she's tried reassuring him, ignoring him, a spray bottle when he cries, and he chews everything. And her landlord's given a warning about his howling at night. So tricky, really. He's got plenty of toys. This is such a common problem, separation anxiety, and it is quite a tricky problem to solve, but it does come down to kind of desensitization, reducing the anxiety about being left, so getting them used to very small periods of being left, getting them used to the cues of you leaving, so they're picking up the keys and so on, and ignoring them. You're doing definitely the right thing by the ignoring. The reassuring, absolutely the wrong thing to do, because that just reinforces the fact that there's an issue here. I'm going to reinforce that. So it's all about trying to ignore the excitement, make it not an issue, trying to reduce in a way the bonding between the two of you, because it generally causes sort of over bonding, and distraction can work well. You know, sort of toys and CDs and what have you. The crying at night is tricky, but you know, hopefully it's going to become part of the same thing. If you desensitize him to being with you all the time and being anxious about being away from you, then that should improve. Yeah,
it sounds pretty good. I mean, I would also mention that rattle that she's using, or the spray bottle, I wouldn't use that anymore. That can make it worse.
It's just exacerbating the situation, I think, isn't it?
And the other thing, just that if he's been fine for so long, I just wonder why he might have suddenly developed a problem in the last month or two.
Good point.
It might
Yeah.
not be something you can figure out, but there might be something that's triggered that if you addresses the
Sometimes,
problem,
you know, like
and it could
a
be
new
medical.
baby and
Yeah, it could be medical,
worth
but
getting them checked out by the vet.
Yeah,
no,
just in
very good
case.
point. Yep. We just got to rush through because we're running out of time. So Maxine, this is your favourite question. This is one for you. I'm going to give this one to you, Adrian. I've got a baby naked rat called Valentine. I've made sure she gets plenty of olive oil for her skin, good soft bedding, but she still has dry patches, especially on her belly and underarms. Is there any way I can keep any scratches or dry patches clean of infection without it being harmful to her as she cleans herself? Just thinking about Malawi, that's not the kind of thing that Richard out in Malawi has to deal with on a regular basis.
No. Probably not.
You
no.
do.
Yeah, I actually seen a naked rat this week for castration. So basically, it's just a rat without any fur, without any hair, and they are prone to skin problems. I mean, I would try and make sure that we're not dealing with a mite problem, because that can present with dry patches and scurfing, and you can get good mite products over the counter or from your veterinary surgeon. So that's something to rule out. I think the olive oil is a good way forward. That can improve skin condition. I don't know whether you're adding it in the diet or just rubbing it on the skin, because both of them can be effective. So maybe consider that. I mean, you can get creams and stuff that you can rub on the skin from the vet that help with scratches and keep them clean, but they can contain a steroid, which is pretty much a no-no, I would say, for routine use in a rat.
I guess if there's scratches or dry patches, you could clean them with a bit of warm, salty water.
Yeah, or get from
them.
your vet some Hibby Scrub, the antibacterial soap that we use. That might work quite well.
I mean, I guess with anything like that, you don't want to make matters worse and putting something on which might irritate the skin and make things worse. So I guess that's another thing to bear in mind. And finally, Jerry has said, my 10-year-old Staffy's recently underwent minor surgery, but they discovered a very minor heart murmur. Said nothing to worry about, but watch out for exercise intolerance, as we talked about earlier. My question is, would it be better to limit her exercise now or continue to walk as much as she does now? She's always on the go and outruns the younger dog. So, yeah, does she preemptively reduce her exercise?
Yeah, I would probably say no, is the short answer. I mean, a heart murmur doesn't necessarily correlate with clinical signs. So just because you've got a heart murmur, that just means you've got abnormal flow of blood for whatever reason in the heart. Doesn't necessarily mean you've got a problem that needs to be treated at that point, but it could get worse. However, I wouldn't restrict their exercise or anything like that currently. I would just probably treat them as normal till you got diagnosed with having a heart problem. But for now,
exercise doesn't cause the problem, does it?
No.
If they can tolerate it, it's not going to make things worse.
No, exactly. If it's not causing a problem currently, going on exercise won't make it any worse. If it's causing a problem, exercise will make it worse, but it doesn't sound like it is. The whole grade 1, basically we grade them on how loud they are, for want of a better word, and grade 1 is the quietest one. But unfortunately, the noise that you get doesn't necessarily mean it's a good one or a bad one. So just because it's a quiet one doesn't mean it's not a bad condition. Just because it's a loud one doesn't mean it's awful either. So if it's getting worse, that tends to imply there's a problem. I suppose the only other thing I would say, and it's one thing I talked about in a tip of the week, is that the best way to monitor these dogs and see if there's a problem is to record their respiratory rate, how fast they breathe while they're asleep. Okay, so you record it over 30 seconds to a minute. You can get apps now, free apps that you can download, that you just tap your screen on your iPhone or your iPad, and it records it for you, makes a graph. And if that breathing rate over time is going up, that's your first sign that you have a heart problem.
That is fascinating. I was not aware of that.
There you go.
God, you
need to read my tips.
You do know an awful lot of stuff. A final one, I think this is definitely for you, from Natasha, who says, why do you lick yourself after I've stroked you?
I think that's aimed at you. I don't know.
Does she know something I don't? Right, let's move on. I'm not sure you want to answer that one, do you? So we've got our caption competition, but before we do that, very exciting for those of you who've entered our Crufts competition. And this is the winner. So the winner gets 2 tickets to come to Crufts. So these are worth quite a lot of money. They're season tickets, come on all 4 days. And this was on our Vets Kitchen Facebook page. Can you give us a drum roll?
That'll do.
The winner is Alison Ridley. So thank you ever so much, everyone, for entering, and congratulations to you, Alison. Yeah. We'll be in touch and sort out your tickets. So that's great. Now, caption competition. We've had so many here. Let's just read out a few more of them, because they are wonderful.
Especially ones that insult you.
Especially ones that insult me, yeah.
And there's none that mean you have to sing yet either, which is great.
I could, right, let's find it on here. Bear with us while we find right. So there's lots of you comments. Thanks ever so much, as always, for your comments. So what new ones have we had down here? This is my new getaway vehicle, so no one will notice I'm gone. I know you've got some Vet's Kitchen food somewhere like that one. Just loving my new back scratcher. Yeah, it was quite a good back scratcher. The arm handset was proving ever popular mobile communication device for animals. Not quite sure I understand that one. What do you mean there are no Vet's Kitchen Lima food? Take me back to Madagascar. We're working on it. Every pet owner loves a Klingon.
Oh dear.
Vet's Monkey Kitchen has a nice ring to it. I think I'm quite tempted by that one.
Yeah, let's go for that one then.
Which is a bit insulting to me, really. But I think the winner, and are we happy with that one?
Yeah, let's go for it.
For Jenny Knight, for Dad, you came to get me. I did. I was there for you, son, wasn't I? I came and got you, rescued you from the wildlife park. So thank you ever so much. And Jenny, we'll sort out your prize. So thanks ever so much for entering, and we'll be doing the same thing next week with another crazy picture. You were having something you were going to mention at the end of the show,
just briefly. We're going to put something out on Facebook now. I'm going to start with the media department here filming some educational videos to go online and on our site and on YouTube to help inform owners about certain diseases. So if your animal gets diagnosed with kidney disease or thyroid disease, you can watch the video and learn a bit more about it. And the same for simple things like, flea treatment, worming, just to kind of increase people's awareness. So if there's anything you think would be really useful, then please post it on our Facebook page, and we'll endeavour to make a video about it for people to watch.
Thank you, Adrian. And just to mention, if you are coming to Crufts, we're going to be there. We're on stand 94, and we're doing lots of great deals on all of our Vet's Kitchen foods. And it's not too late to get your pictures in for our Poochie Portraits competition, where you can win yourself a photo shoot with Poochie Portraits in Swindon. So you can just send your photos of pets with props to media@vetsclinic.co.uk. That's it for this week.
That's it.
We will see you all same time next week. Have a great week. Thanks for watching, and see you then.
See you then.
Cheers, bye.
Bye.